Hi, welcome to Unless, a Stand Together podcast. This is our first podcast, and we're all pretty excited to talk about something we all care about. This podcast is composed by high schoolers in the group Stand Together, a group whose goal is to destigmatize mental health, which we can do through talking about it because it's a subject that I think a lot of people are uncomfortable to talk about. So without further ado, let's meet the hosts.
I am Brendan. I am a rising senior at Montefiore.
I am Caitlin. I'm a rising senior at Shaler Area High School.
Hi, my name is Kara. I go to Shaler Area High School. I'm going to be a junior in the fall.
I'm Riley. I go to Shaler Area, and I will be a junior in the fall. This podcast is called Unless, after a quote from Dr. Seuss's The Lorax. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. Something we as Stand Together want to do is get people to care about mental well-being so we can create a better world to live in. Due to the sensitive nature of the topics being discussed, we want to encourage you to keep your own wellness in mind. If at any time you're feeling overwhelmed while listening, please take a break and/or talk to an adult that you trust. Remember, we're not experts. Anything we say is simply a matter of opinion and personal experience.
Okay, so now we're going to be sharing our own personal experiences with mental health and how we personally have been impacted along with people around us and how that has affected us. So I've always struggled with anxiety in some kind of form. So freshman year was kind of the worst of it because freshman year is always weird in high school. So of course we got to add that on top. So all through middle school, I was kind of quiet and reserved, and I was always afraid to raise my hand, which I think being in the gifted program kind of helped with that. Not that that gave me anxiety, but I was set in the mindset that I didn't need to study or try in order to excel in school. So once high school hit and my non-existent study skills were just vibing, they were just there, I started to fail a lot easier than I used to. So I would get a lot more anxious in my daily life, and I had to learn to balance my work schedule with my personal schedule because I would try to take on too much and then I wouldn't have time for myself. So eventually I did work that out. So my day-to-day anxiety was not away, but it kind of was tamed a little bit. But it always stuck around and showed its face at the worst times, like the first homecoming dance I ever went to. So a dark cafeteria full of loud teenagers jumping up and down screaming to music I don't like. Super fun. So about an hour in, it started to get hard to breathe and my chest tightened and I started to shake and my head was pounding and I was like, oh, what's this? So that was a panic attack. I had no idea what was happening though, so I just went outside and sat for about 20 minutes until my breathing went back to normal and I went on my day-to-day life like nothing happened. And then it didn't happen again for months until one day I woke up feeling just kind of numb. The whole day I felt no emotions except for I was there, things were going wrong. So I had no idea what was wrong with me, but I didn't want to let it get in the way of my day. So like a super smart person, I went to the school concert afterwards that same day to support my friends. So I had a panic attack and that was the worst one I've ever had. I couldn't stand and I felt nauseous. And I waited for it to go away for a solid half hour and it just didn't. So it didn't go away until I went to bed. And even then I woke up feeling awful. But I did want to say I'm not diagnosed with anxiety or any kind of panic disorder. I've never mentioned it to a professional because it doesn't interfere with my everyday life. But before you do use a medical treatment or any kind of therapy, please get diagnosed. People always say self-diagnosing is bad. It's bad when you use it to get treatment, but it's okay to recognize symptoms in yourself because that can help lead you to talk to a professional. So don't feel guilty if you're oh, that's a symptom of anxiety. Let's go talk to them about that. That's perfectly okay. But when you use it to get yourself out of things and get meds, that's where you have to draw the line. So back to my anxiety, I've had an anxiety attack at every dance I've been to. So everything kind of fits in a category, and I've been able to learn what to avoid. So like a large room full of people I don't know dancing and yelling, or a super small dark room of people I do know while screaming, not good environments. So like I've learned to avoid them by like just not going, and if I do go, I know to calm myself down by breathing and counting and like grounding myself, taking in my surroundings and realizing I'm here, it's okay, I can continue. So yeah, my mental health journey has been very like anxiety in my head, with an occasional anxiety attack, you know, for flavor. So yeah, that's my story. Let's move on.
So I will start off with saying once again, I am Brendan Montour High School, rising senior in the fall. I have been diagnosed with ADHD. When I don't remember exactly when, but it was a long time ago. I think I was in kindergarten or first grade. So like 12, 13 years ago, something like that. And I don't really have a story revolving around it, but thought it would be good to have a conversation regarding my experiences, like what it's like with it, and everyone else may have things to chip in with every once in a while.
So I'm Riley, and I haven't been diagnosed with ADHD, but starting, I think, a few months ago, I don't remember how long ago, but in conversations with my therapist, we were talking, and I was like, hey, I've learned a little bit about ADHD. Do you think that that's possibly something that, like, what I'm describing, does that resonate? And she was like, oh, yeah, actually kind of a little bit. Here's some paperwork you can fill out to see, like, what you relate to. And she was like, so the results of this, the little test that I took, like, the inventory that I took was not conclusive, but she was like, it's still very possible. And I was like, I don't know. I have to look into this more because I don't know what some of the things about it are. And I've been doing a lot of research about it. But I have not been diagnosed with ADHD. I just resonate with a lot I resonate with a lot of the symptoms of it. So yeah.
I will also say I am not an expert. None of us are experts on any of this. But some of the stuff I've learned through social media and stuff. Not everything may be accurate. Some stuff I'm just confused because I don't know what is necessarily caused by ADHD, what is just my personality. In fact, I didn't know a lot of stuff about ADHD until like last year, and I've had this for so long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, I was going to say the first thing I just want to say is, for those of you who may be unaware, ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder.
ADHD isn't often diagnosed in girls. It's a lot more common to see like a young boy and be like, oh, he's restless. We can get him tested for ADHD. And it's also something that you don't assume would affect adults. It does. It really affects adults too, not just kids being like restless and climbing up on chairs. It shows itself in a lot of different ways, I've learned.
Yeah, it's not just, ooh, like, it's not just, I am talking about in this very professional setting, squirrel! It's not that. Like, that's also very extreme. But, like, yeah, it's not just that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, distractibility can be a thing, but it's not like the whole thing. There's a lot of things. So what are some of the things you would say you deal with like in a day-to-day setting?
Well, but one thing definitely is I am very fidgety, very restless with like, I almost always have to be doing something with my hands. I crack my knuckles a lot. I have this little hair tie here that I've been playing with. Something that helps with that sometimes I have this one somewhere on my desk, fidget toy, that just like flips over itself, and that is something I actually wanted to talk about is fidget toys, fidget spinners back when they were a trend back in like, what was that, 2017?
Something like it, yeah, I think so.
I've seen many people online upset, like, will never forgive, like, people saying they'll never forgive, like, neurotypical people, like, people who do not suffer from something like this that affects their brain, for, like, ruining fidget spinners and other fidget toys for people with ADHD and autistic people, because autistic people also use things like that. But if you are unaware of that, back in 2017, fidget spinners got really popular for some reason, and in many schools ended up getting banned because kids would just play with them and not pay attention when they're meant to help people who have issues that need something to do. So that is very disappointing that has happened, but it's something that I'm trying to work with.
It
But
happens with, like, friends we talked about earlier.
yes, sometimes it can also be like emotionally kind of. If a friend isn't talking to me for a while, I may feel like, oh, they don't care about me, like they don't want to talk to me. So, which ties in with a common side effect of sorts of ADHD called rejection sensitive dysphoria, which I learned about like last year. And it's basically like people who have ADHD end up like, and this is a general thing with that, of like emotions are harder on them, like in more intense emotions, I think it is. So like feeling something stronger, but also sometimes I think emotional, that's something with the object permanence and like emotional detachment in a way where it's like, and this may sound morbid, but like being at a funeral and feeling like, oh, I don't like, you don't fully register that like the person is gone, or like you don't miss them in a way because like they're not gone, or like you feel like you didn't know them enough, something like you're not sad in a way.
That's weird how much that clicks with me, because I've always wondered why loss was a lot different for me. I've lost three people at this point in my life. Like, I lost my grandfather, my great grandmother, and my cat. And the only one I cried about was my cat. Like, it does sound morbid because like somebody will tell me like, hey, your great grandmother passed away, and it won't click with me that she's gone. Like, it won't click with me that they are gone, and I just don't feel sad about it, or I just don't feel anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, yeah, I lost this person, but there's nothing I can feel about it, or like I feel like, okay, well, I don't think I wasn't with them every single day, so it's not like there was a huge loss there. So that's a weird thing that resonates with me.
Something that hits me a lot is like I've been part of the gifted program at my school for several years, and there are many points where like now I very much don't feel like I deserve to be there, because like I barely put in work anymore, and like it shows because like my grades suffer because there's just like that lack of motivation of like, I don't know why, which may not necessarily be this, but definitely something I struggle with and I'm trying to fix. But
Yeah, there's a lot of things that like you said, it's not just not focusing, it's a lot of things. There's two, I think, very different sides of the spectrum too. That is like the difference between not focusing on anything and not being able to like going to pick up a book and being like, I'm so excited to read this, and 5 minutes in you're like, it's too boring, I'm not doing this, and putting it down. Between the difference of like, yeah, I could do this thing right now, and you do it for like 4 hours and you don't do anything else, and that's all you focus on. Hyper focusing.
Yeah, hyper focusing, hyperfixations. had that happen where like I will like lately and in the past it's been the game Terraria where I'll just like sit and play it for hours and like neglect things like eating, drinking. Like that's an issue.
It is. So that's super interesting to think about.
Stand Together is an organization that helps to reduce the stigma around mental health and substance use disorders. We share resources and statistics to help you be the most informed person you can be. Stigma hurts everyone. Help be part of that change. The Instagrams are at stand2togetherpgh. We will also have a Google form available in the description below for you to share your story. You can anonymously ask us a question about mental health or share your story for it to be shared on the show.
Hi, hello, my name is Kara, and I go to Shaler Area High School, and I'm going to be a junior in the fall. And I wanted to start out my little segment about why I joined Stand Together and what I wanted to do as I joined Stand Together. Then I'll get a bit more into my personal experiences and things that I've dealt with in the past. So I saw many people in our schools and online talking about their mental health, and they weren't getting the help that they deserved. And I've always been one to strive for a change. So when I got the note my freshman year to join Stand Together, I was ecstatic. I was finally going to make the changes I believed were necessary. And I wanted to say that I'm not diagnosed with any mental health disorders. However, I would like to go see a specialist rather soon. My dad isn't one to really believe in mental health. He believes it's more of a ploy to get out of things. There are days in my life when I cannot get out of bed. I just don't have the energy to go out into the world and pretend to be someone I'm not for the whole day. In my bed and in my dreams, I'm safe. I don't have to pretend anymore. This led me to social media. On social media, nobody knows who you are, and they don't need to. I cut my basics to say when introducing myself. My name is Kara, I go to Shaler, and I live in PA. But they don't know my personality. I did try to be my authentic self, and at first, it was amazing. I made some really cool online friends that I love more than anything, but it blew up in my face. People started not to like my authentic self, so I started reserving myself more and more. What was once my playground to have fun with friends and laugh about our favorite Star Wars characters soon became a mental landmine. People online will turn on you in an instant. If you say or do something that doesn't sit right with them, boom, they're talking about you to another group chat, and now half the platform hates you. All of these things started taking a toll on how I viewed myself. I started thinking things like, nobody on this app likes you. You should deactivate. They all want you gone. Why don't you leave? So this was all going on in my head, which was awful to my mental health. I would have a breakdown every time I logged on to the app, but I couldn't leave. It was like an attachment to me. I couldn't leave the app because what if this group chat is talking about me? What if this person that I loved now hates me? I would cry every night thinking about what the app used to mean to me. People would call me ugly so I wouldn't eat for the day. People would say I'm obnoxious so I wouldn't talk the whole day. It was just a hot mess, and it lived in my brain. The Twitter situation has yet to fix itself. To cope, I'm limiting myself to the app and finding other things to do, such as TikTok and just trying to stay off my phone, period. Being on Twitter has also affected my body image issues. As someone who's bigger, I've never been called pretty or anything like that. Even as a kid, I was always bigger. It's only gotten worse from when I was a kid. I don't like to go outside and have people stare at me. I feel like I already know what they're thinking, and it's not good. At school, I don't eat lunch because I don't want people to look at me and think, yeah, that's why she's big. I dread going to the beach. When at the ocean, I spend most of my time actually in the water, so people don't stare at me. It really prevents me from being truly happy. I'll be out having a fun time with friends, and then I'll look at myself and I feel worse. I just want to be free, you know? I opened up to my mom over quarantine about possibly having anxiety or depression. She said she would be willing to take me to a professional to see what's up. It's yet to happen since we've been in the green, and every time I bring it up to her, she just writes it off. I could never bring these issues to my dad, as I'd said before. He thinks mental health is a joke. I hope me sharing my social media story was something for you all to try and connect to. I know I'm not the only person on Twitter who feels like this. I also hope my feeling of self-doubt connects with others so we can all feel our true pretty selves. Thank you for listening to my story.
So hi, I'm Riley. I've always kind of been an open book, so I just kind of put everything out there about me. So I'm just going to talk about a lot of things that I go through and that I experience. So I have symptoms of anxiety and depression, but I'm not diagnosed with either. I have been to therapy for both of them, and I've never been like formally diagnosed, but I do have like symptoms of both. So I think the first time I realized this was like in 7th or 8th grade, because that was the first time that I went to therapy for just me. And I had been to therapy before for family issues and for issues with my father, who was abusive. And we think that that was kind of a starting point for like where some issues came from, because abuse is traumatic and it can cause some underlying issues. And so the thing with my anxiety is that it's gotten a lot better recently, but it's not completely gone. It's almost never completely gone. But like 2 years ago, I couldn't answer the phone. I couldn't do anything without like having to ask somebody else to help me with it. I couldn't ask anybody something. It was just like, it was too difficult and I couldn't do it. But a lot recently I've been getting, like over the past like 6 months, it's changed a little bit. So I think like 6 months ago, I got a job, and I think that was when my anxiety kind of got to the worst point that it was at. I had like such bad anxiety over going to work that I didn't sleep for a couple of weeks. I just got like a few hours of sleep each night and would like jerk awake and sit up because like my heart was just constantly racing throughout the entire night, and I was thinking and I could not stop thinking, and it just kept me up the entire night. And I still kind of get work anxiety, but it's to a much less degree. But like it's still kind of with me. Like every time I go to work, I get kind of nauseous and my stomach starts like I start getting, my heart starts racing. And definitely like a key like thing with my anxiety is I am afraid of making mistakes, or I think I'm going to make mistakes constantly. And now I'm less afraid of it than I used to be, but like it's more of just now I'm confident enough in myself to the point of I don't care. I just kind of run into situations, and I'm not as afraid to make mistakes, but I still, like before this call, I got really anxious, and like right now, a little scared to talk about stuff. So it's still with me. It's gotten better. So like what anxiety looks like for me is like I said, like increased heart rate, nausea, feeling fatigued, and like definitely like tripping up over my words. And I think overthinking is also a big thing for me, and I used to struggle a lot with autopilot thoughts, which are thoughts that you're basically conditioned to think, or thoughts that you don't really control. So like for me, they were making me feel bad because they were negative towards my body or my voice or my clothes or the way I was walking, or like I would think things like, you're going to fail, you're going to mess up. And most people get autopilot thoughts, and it takes a long time to work on them because the brain is a really big muscle, and it's just like this hunk of meat that electricity is going through, and it takes a really long time to change it. And basically I had to take each thought and put them in a more neutral sense, or put them in a way that I like, okay, but maybe that's true, maybe it isn't. It could be either. I don't know for sure that I'm going to make a mistake. I don't know for sure that I'm going to fail. I don't know for sure that this is going to go bad. So like even when I assume the worst, I would have to be like, okay, but maybe it could work. Maybe this could work out. And also understanding what an irrational thought was something that I had to work on. Like everyone hates me, or like something that's it's not true, but I think it. And I think that helped me get through a lot of my anxiety, and that was what I worked on for a few months in therapy. And I really think that therapy is for everyone. I think that no matter what you're going through, therapy is a great way to just kind of improve your life as it is, because like there's a term like neurotypical, but I think that everybody still could benefit from going to therapy. The depression symptoms I have are like things like I sleep too much and I still feel tired. I feel fatigue a lot. I feel lack of motivation, which leads to a lot of procrastination. And I get like periods where I just kind of feel numb emotionally and physically, and it's like an ache or like a pit in my chest, and I don't feel any like emotion, but it's just like the feeling is just bad. That's all that I can put it as. It's just bad, and it makes me not want to do anything at all. So it got bad enough that one point, I think it was a few summers ago, not last summer, but the summer before that, I was in a mood where I just felt bad, and I felt numb, and I felt pretty horrible, and it was bad enough that like somebody I loved and somebody that I cared about had said something to me that really upset me, and I felt like I was never going to get better, and it was just this horrible feeling, and it didn't stop, and I had cut myself that night, and that was the first and last time that I had done that, and I felt horribly guilty about it, and I felt like I was looking for attention, or I felt like I was overreacting, and I had went to therapy a few months after that, and I haven't done it since, and I don't really think about it that much, but if anybody out there like feels that way, or if they feel like the urge to do that, or worse, I contact a professional, reach out to people. We have resources in the description that you can go to, and some things that I do to cope with whenever I'm feeling horrible is music. Definitely putting in headphones, blasting music, and kind of blocking out things. It helps a lot when I'm overwhelmed, so that it's just one thing that I'm focusing on. I also skateboard a lot because exercise can help if you're feeling like really stagnant. And then painting or doing things with clay, using creativity as a tool really helps because it gets that creative flow, and it can often distract people. And sometimes I feel really restless, so I have fidget toys. Like I'm holding this little cat thing right now. So that's my story.
Thank you for listening to this first episode of Unless, a Stand Together podcast. We'd like to conclude with a quote from Dr. Seuss is, "Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not." Our social media links for Stand Together will be in the description, along with resources for mental health and hotlines. Join us in our next episode, where we discuss how mental health is represented effectively and harmfully in the media, and the impact that it has on the stigma around mental health.